What's going on, guys? It's your boy Anthony, alongside the best Big 3 account in the universe, Big 3 News, aka Will, back with another edition of the Fourth Man podcast. My guy, how's it going?
My guy,
feels like
what's
it's
up, my
been
guy?
a minute.
It has been a minute. I feel like we took what? Like a week off, really.
Really, just a week, and
Really
it feels like
we
it's been.
just took 1 week.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a
relax.
month.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a month. I feel like a different person since our last recording.
100%.
I don't know about you.
Same here. I feel like a different person every week in this day and age. Nonetheless, glad to be back for another episode this week. We got a great episode this week, but before we get into some of the news here that we have provided for you, as always, if you want to find or follow the show on our social media, it's at Fourth Man Pod, obviously at Big3 News, and my personal handle is at @A_Siggy. If you want to watch the show rather than listen to the show, it's on YouTube, youtube.com/fourthmanpod. Anyone who subscribes or leave feedback is greatly appreciated. We also have a little bit of merch out there now. We got some hoodies, got some t-shirts.
Yes, we do.
You can find that at teespring.com/fourthmanpod. And for those of you listening on Dash Radio on the Nothing But Net channel, appreciate you guys, as always, tuning in every Saturday, whether you're a new listener or you're a listener who tunes in weekly here.
And you're listening to it first.
Listening to it first every single week here. So pretty exciting start to the episode because we got some exciting news, kind of our saving grace or sliver of hope almost, it feels like, for 2021 and the Big 3.
That's a big difference.
Is it a saving grace and
saving
sliver of
grace
hope?
And sliver of hope is a
it feels like the same thing. It feels like the same thing in this.
Depends on how
scenario.
desperate you are, I guess.
I don't know about you. I'm desperate.
We're getting pretty desperate. Desperate.
But our 2019 MVP, Joe Johnson, was recently been making his stops around a couple of different podcasts and providing some cool Big 3 stuff and Big 3 information. But recently was just on the Inside TBT podcast. And Will, you and I both originally, when we heard that he was going to be on this podcast, there was a little bit of worry there because most of the people that have been joining the Inside TBT podcast have been announcing their return or announcing their new team into this year's TBT. So we were thinking, man, it looks like Joe is going to be returning to the TBT until he got asked the question and
until he hit that Uno reverse card.
He said, whoa, here, there's a stop sign right there. And your question, he actually said that he is going to wait on the Big 3 to make an announcement before deciding on the TBT and his return. So I actually wanted to bring up this quote because we all know our guy Will always provides us with the best Big 3 news here. So Joe said on the Inside TBT podcast, quote, "If the Big 3 comes back, we have to defend our title. And those guys that I played with and the Big 3 and Ice Cube, it was very, 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 very therapeutic for me to play in that. I could never turn my back on them," end quote. When we heard that, we were obviously very excited. But here's the question now. I mean, does Joe know something that we don't?
Well, let me give you a little bit of background to this. So before I answer that question, I'm trying to see if I still have it. I might have deleted it. But when I found out that Joe was going on Inside TBT, now I could be wrong. This is, as you're going to find out, the old adage, don't assume, because it just makes an ass out of you and me. I'm going to make a huge ass out of myself so when I found out that he was going on Inside TBT, I'm under the impression that Inside TBT isn't really like us, right? So I think they're like a league-sponsored podcast.
Yeah, they're like associated with TBT.
Right. So when people go on their podcast, it is to strategically like break news and like things like that. Like if a new team is coming, if someone's going to be a coach, if an alumni team is coming, they're going to announce it on Inside TBT, which in my opinion is a very good strategy that the Big 3 should look into. If there was a Big 3 podcast out there, which there just happens to be, wink, wink. So when I found out that Joe Johnson was going on Inside TBT, and Joe is not much of a podcast guy,
right?
I figured the TBT asked him to do this. So I don't have it in my phone anymore. I deleted it. I'm trying to see if it's in my
never delete. Always got to archive.
Right. I'm trying to see if it's in the archives here, but I'm not finding it. I made a graphic saying break. Oh, here it is.
You already made a graphic?
So I was going to make a graphic And it says Joe Johnson will
playing.
play in TBT 2021 via Inside the TBT podcast, and I left a blank space for information. In case it wasn't for Overseas Elite, or I was gonna put like, I don't know, whatever the details of it were, I was gonna put that. So I made that the night.
You were already jumping the gun.
Out. I was jumping the gun. I jumped the gun huge. So then episode came out. I saw it was like a quick, easy listen. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna listen to this thing. I fast forward towards the end because I figured if they're gonna make a big announcement, it's towards the end. It was kind of them just not really saying anything. So I'm like, all right, I guess I gotta listen to this thing from the start. I listened to it from the start. And they asked Joe straight up, like, they're like, are you coming back to TBT? And they were sort of surprised by his answer.
Yeah.
And he gave, I sort of spliced the quote a little bit. So I recommend that everyone goes and listens to it because he gives a glowing review of the Big 3 that unfortunately I had to cut a little bit out to fit on the graphic. But, this is huge.
Yeah.
Like you have, I mean, especially what you just said, right? We have the Big 3, the 2019 MVP, the 2019 champion in a off season that has been full of, doubt and mystery and what's going on. What exactly is this league going to look like? You have basically the face of the league saying, listen, I'm with you guys. I mean, we've said it that, we don't know what the league's going to look like. We don't know who's coming back. We don't know who's not. We can assume, guys talk about wanting to come back, but we don't know what it's going to look like. And when you have someone like Joe Johnson being like, no, I'm going to be there, I'm not classifying this as a splash alert, not yet, because I'm waiting. There's still a few more boxes that need to be checked.
You didn't make your graphic already?
I didn't make that graphic already.
Okay.
But for Joe to say, I'm not, especially, that one line where he said, I'm not turning my back on them.
That's, crazy respect for him.
That's crazy respect. And so, for us, we really appreciate that. And I know the Big 3 appreciates that too.
Yeah.
So
I didn't really feel like I got a lot of indication on if Joe do anything.
That's the worrying part.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the funny part is, did the tournament ask him to do this? And he said, sure. Like maybe the thought crossed his mind, like maybe I should just do this. And either he heard something or something in his mind came up and he's like, you know what? No, I'm gonna go on this and just answer truthfully.
Yeah. I don't know. Because they sounded surprised by his answer.
They did.
When he said maybe, they both of the hosts were like, no. Like,
yeah. I mean? Like, they were very disappointed.
They were very disappointed. Like I think they thought it was gonna be like a cut and dry answer.
Yeah. And not only did he give like a stellar review about the Big 3, but I thought he gave rave reviews about the TBT and especially Overseas.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he was like talking about how he didn't know any of the guys on Overseas Elite when he first joined. I think outside Frank Nitti, he got into Frank a little bit, but maybe not on a friendship, personal relationship. Yeah. And X, obviously.
Right.
But I don't think he knew anybody and was talking about, the team. I think ultimately the team just didn't, it felt like he was just joining a team, which we all thought was kind of weird too. He's like joining this elite team already. But I felt like after playing in it, it was kind of him sitting back for a minute and thinking like, man, that team is great. They've built greatness in that league. But I wasn't a part of the greatness that was built. Those were guys like DJ Kennedy, DeAndre Kane. And I think his expectation might have been to come into Overseas Elite and play with those guys, you know? So maybe that was a little bit of a setback.
He was almost going to be like he thought he was going to be like, KD joining Golden State in a way.
No, absolutely. That's, I think, exactly the situation he's going to join or was trying to join. So that was pretty interesting.
But exactly what you said. I mean, he gave a glowing review of the TBT as well. So if you're them, I mean, if you're somebody who, I mean, listen, let's be honest with ourselves, right? The TBT has very similar overlapping goals with the Big 3. They would love for names like Joe Johnson to join consistently. Mm-hmm. So, if you're a guy like that, if you're like a Dwayne Wade, if you're like somebody, or if you're, let's say, a college guy from a mid-major school, or, guys that we see who maybe more populate the TBT player pool, which are just sort of these college guys who these hometown kids that they love, and then they're just don't make the NBA or they play overseas and they want to come back and play in the summer. A glowing review from somebody like Joe Johnson is only going to help. So I thought Joe handled that very well.
I did too, especially because I felt like there was a little bit of, I don't want to say spitefulness necessarily, but definitely, like we said, they were disappointed.
They were definitely disappointed.
That I guess he was supposed to be on past shows. He was getting the ISO no-show. And
yeah, they called him ISO no-show, yeah.
Felt like, I mean, this man's just trying to be like 100 with you guys.
Well, they said too. I think they said play. I mean, I'm sure it was a joke, and I think it was lightheartedly. But like they said, playing the big three is the easy way out. You know, and so
I think Joe looked at that
as us, and we're big three boys. You know, to the end, we were like, whoa,
yeah.
Let's take a step back a little bit.
By no means is this. I mean, we're not running up and down the court, but there's a lot more aspects to this game, and not to mention these are all pro athletes. I mean, you're not just getting guys like. I know this is their first season, but you're not getting the Barstool guys out here, you know,
right, exactly.
running to the championship.
I mean, you're not getting Dave Portnoy out there. I mean, you know, so I don't know. You know,
I thought this is very interesting.
It was a very interesting interview.
Very interesting interview, but now let's just look at this from like a complete entire perspective of Joe Johnson and essentially like following his prime NBA career, let's say. This man has now not opened the doors to one route, but like now kind of another route almost. And I don't want to say like he opened the route for like any basketball player, but maybe like a basketball player in his similar situation. Someone who's older, maybe like teams won't sign him because he's a vet. Now it's like, hey, maybe we can join the TBT and have a nice run. And that's another way back to the NBA if we want to play.
110%. I mean, if you're like an Isaiah Thomas, right?
Yeah.
If especially, let's break this down by position, right? Isaiah Thomas is a point guard. And not only when you're a point guard, I feel like it's harder to showcase your point guard level abilities in a league like the Big Three. It's half court, it's 3v3. If you're Isaiah Thomas, the TBT would probably be a great league for you. If you go in there and you're dropping buckets, you're distributing, you're assisting, you know, you're playing quality defense, I think you're gonna have a much better chance at showcasing what you need to showcase to get back in the NBA than the Big Three. Specifically for a player like Isaiah Thomas, and specifically maybe for, you know, smaller, more traditional point guards.
Yeah, well, especially if you make a championship run, right? I mean, that's just more added tape to your film.
100%. Yeah.
But I just find it so interesting that, you know, Joe takes the big, I don't want to disrespect guys like Josh Childress, Xavier Silas, guys who have made runs back to the NBA because of the Big Three. But I'm talking about someone who's had the best season, won an MVP, won a championship, and had like maybe the most legit shot to be on an active roster at the start of a season.
Yeah.
And now I feel like within the TBT, that same concept, he's kind of at it because he just wants to play basketball. He really finds it very therapeutic. But I think a lot of people respect it. Like, oh, he's not too big for his ego. Like he's a 7-time All-Star, but he's not too big to play in these other leagues and show like, hey, this can still be really competitive. And
he almost legitimizes them in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a great way to put it. So that being said, for the Big Three, I feel like that's just big news for us. Cause now it's kind of segues into our next topic of discussion in the sense that, you know, you recently got a new splash alert.
I did. We got our first splash alert 2021.
Yeah, I think we might be seeing more of those now that Joe has maybe kind of given that sense of hope for people expecting the Big Three back. But
yeah, definitely.
Let's talk about the first splash alert of 2021. Someone slid up into Big 3 News DM and said, hey, I'm going to be in this thing as long as it comes back in 2021.
Yeah, no. And so that, so I think he originally was commenting on a couple of my posts and he said, I'm interested in playing this. So I'm like, shoot me a DM. So, I mean, let me see. I don't want to misquote him. I mean, basically, he was just trying to get information on the league, right? And that's really what a lot of these guys are. You know, they're like, hey, I'm interested in playing. Like, when is it? When's the draft? Like, I'll be ready. And I'm like, I don't know. You know,
I've gotten those DMs a couple times too.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, listen, you know, if you'd like, I can create a draft profile for you and we can get this thing going. And you know, one of the benefits is a ton of captains and coaches and decision makers in the Big Three follow me. So if we can get your highlights out there, you know, I'm absolutely willing to give it a shot. And he said, let's do it. And that was NBA vet Von Wafer. Yeah.
Von Wafer, former NBA basketball player for the Boston Celtics, the Atlanta Hawks, or Houston Rockets. I apologize for sticking red.
Lakers for a little bit.
The Lakers. He's played in the CBA. Got
G League a little bit.
A little bit of G League. So left-handed shooter. Not sure if that makes a difference for anybody else, but I know that I'm sure some of those stats guys would love, or analytics guys are like, oh, left-handed shooters shoot better in this spot. You should have some of them there. Nonetheless, a guy with a lot of NBA experience and a guy that I think it would be an interesting piece to a Big Three team.
No, 100%. I mean, I was looking at his CBA highlights, and I mean, he was lighting the CBA up. I mean, he played for Shanghai for a little bit. He jumped around to a couple CBA teams, but he was just going crazy. I mean, he looked like a man amongst boys out there. And I mean, you want to talk about the prototypical Big Three size. He's a 6'5" wing. So yeah. I think he really, I would say that's probably the majority of guys, especially
long
scorers.
Arms.
Yeah, long arms. Somebody who can shoot, somebody who can, get in the paint. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what he's looking like. Hopefully you do a combine for guys like him because he's somebody who I would say, if he comes in there, he's looking good. I think he could go anywhere in this draft. Depends on what he's looking like nowadays, but I mean, if you follow him on social media, he is getting after it.
Yeah,
he's working out. He's every day. He feels as though that he has been wronged. He's been blackballed. And this is a little bit of a redemption tour for him. So I love it. I'm not going to say I'm too familiar with his story. So it would be interesting to see what exactly are the driving factors behind that. Maybe we can find out down the line. But he seems like a man on a mission. So I would not be surprised if we see his name called draft night.
Ooh. All right. There you have it. Von Wafer added to the Big Three draft pool or draft combine, at least here. And we'll see, if we hear another splash alert here in 2021 soon. And hopefully that's because the league has made some news that they're coming back. Hey, hopefully it's Joe next. Hopefully you have that graphic tuned up here sooner rather than later. But
well, I will say this. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm analyzing this wrong, you tell me.
Okay.
I don't think Joe's a splash alert. You can only be a splash alert once.
Fair. You are analyzing that right. Maybe I'm just jumping the gun because anybody at this point saying they're playing is giving me some hope.
And I will say this as well. This is why I don't really like Instagram, because if this was on Twitter, it would have been much more obvious for people to see. But I got a comment on one of my Instagram posts from a while ago. It was actually the one that we were talking about last episode, I believe, about how I sort of outlined the year. I think I did that on New Year's Day.
Right.
And one of the posts, if you remember, was me talking about how I thought Bivouac was going to win the championship.
Right.
And so none of them Will Bynum comments yet. Earlier, I want to say, is that yesterday.
Oh, and Will Bynum commented.
Will Bynum, he said absolutely. He said that August preview's on point.
Really?
So it sounds like Will Bynum's back as well.
Okay, wait. Hold on. Rewind this a little bit. First off, didn't know this happened. So Will Bynum goes back through your Instagram post.
That's correct. Which I did tag him in, so he might just be going through his tags.
Oh, could be. A while since he's checked anything that's been tagged. Very interesting. Okay, so now there's a couple guys who have at least thought of the idea of or looked into the future and thought, hey, I'm going to be playing the Big Three at some point, at least by.
It sounds like people are starting to come out of the woodwork a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the right term, but it sounds like people are starting to, they get the sense that
it's like the Homer meme in reverse.
Yeah, coming out of the bush. Yeah. It sounds like people are starting to get the sense that it's sort of becoming now or never territory for the Big Three. So I think a lot of people are guessing that it's going to happen.
Well, hey, the Big Three made a post today. Maybe they feel like there's a little bit of urgency. Obviously, we know there's a sense of urgency, but maybe they feel like now there's a little bit of pressure for them to push something out. So, hey, maybe we'll see something sooner than later. I hope so. And, whatever the case may be, whether they're playing this summer or maybe a little bit later in the summer, I'm excited for the league to come back. And that being said, I feel like that is all that we have to discuss in the first half of this episode. What would be really cool is if the Big Three came back, stayed a while, and eventually we got this guy who's going to be on, who we were able to interview on the second half of this episode, for him to eventually come and join the Big Three once he feels like it's his time and he's ready to play. But appreciate everyone who's tuned into the first half of this episode. We have an awesome interview with Maurice Creek of Sideline Cancer, TBT, also a former Indiana Hoosier, former player at George Washington. Super dope interview, super candid guy.
This was a cool interview too because this is a candid moment. This is a solo dolo from Anthony.
This is a solo dolo.
So
Unfortunately,
I have not listened to this interview yet.
So unfortunately, Will couldn't be there for other obligations, understandably. So it was just one-on-one, kind of like the old days when I was used to running, and it was a good time. We just kind of chopped it up a little bit about the TBT, his run, a little bit about the Big 3. So really excited for you guys to hear that. Appreciate everyone who tuned in, and let's get to the Mo Creek interview. Cool. Today we're excited to welcome on former Indiana Hoosier and Sideline Cancer's very own Maurice Creek. Mo, I appreciate you coming on. How's everything going for you, over there? I know you're playing overseas. How's everything going for you in the new year?
Everything going well. We just beginning our season. We're 4-4 right now, but, it's still early. We still got like maybe 20, 25 more games to go. So we still got a lot of time to learn each other, plus playoffs. And we got a nice little team. So I feel confident about what I'm doing over here so far.
Nice. That's good to hear. And how is, playing overseas? Obviously different than prior years and your experience. So how is it this year just in comparison to others?
I would say it's pretty new. Even though I've been over the waters, this is my 7th year. This is a different experience for me. Usually when I go overseas, I'm usually the vocal point and the leader. Not saying I'm not that for this team now, but we have a lot more talent on this group than I've had in the previous years. And, like I said, we still getting to learn each other every day and try to fill out what we can do with each other and what we don't do with each other well. So, but time goes on, I think we'll be one of the top teams in the league. I think we're number 5 right now, but, like I said, we still got some time to go.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought that's always been kind of the craziest part about playing overseas, because from my understanding, for the most part, you usually jumping from one league to another, maybe one country to another year after year. Is it difficult to find that chemistry, just playing with different people, year in and year out? Or do you feel like, after 7 years of doing it, being able to find that bond, throughout the season, you feel like it just kind of clicks a little bit better each year?
I feel like it depends on the type of situation that you're in, because, some people could just take the fact of the matter, like when you come overseas and, you're somewhat of an American and they bring you over here to do what you need to do for the team to be successful. Some teams buy in, but some teams don't. And so this team here, it has a lot of talent. So we're buying into each other. As far as talent wise and doing and building off our strengths. So but some of the years that I've been overseas, they didn't want to buy in. They wanted to feel like they were a part, and not saying they don't have the right to do that, but like at the end of the day, everybody's trying to win. So you go to your best strength. You go to your if you are supposed to be that guy, then you go to that guy, no matter who you are or what you were doing. And that's what, a lot of people have to understand coming overseas. Like, it's kind of a competition within the team and then a competition without it. I mean, outside the team too, because they want to, they want to represent their country for themselves the best way they can do it. But they also got to understand that, we're just here to help and make the team better than what it would have been if we weren't here. So, I'm excited for this year more than any year, because like I said, this team has a lot of talent that I didn't have in the previous years.
Yeah, that seems like a prominent topic of discussion too, sacrifice, especially with Brooklyn, just adding a superstar in James Harden. I feel like that's been a big topic of discussion. So I just feel like it's prominent right now, but that's always been a thing of basketball, right? Like you always got to make sacrifices in order for your team to be the best. So, and I think we see a lot of that within the TBT, which we'll get to here in a second. But I mentioned you were a former Indiana Hoosier, which didn't know, prior to talking to you there. Also didn't know this. I mean, those crazy Indiana teams with Tom Crean when, they had Oladipo, Will Sheehy, Jordan Hulls, those guys. Didn't realize that, you were kind of the foundation of that team in a sense. Like I was reading a little bit, and, you were the top scoring freshman through 9 games. Injuries kind of marred your career just a little bit. But I felt like for you, after a couple of tough hands you were given, you were still kind of able to buy into that program. But what was it like for you? I mean, or I should say, how difficult is it to like persevere through that, and then also, be a good teammate whenever, like, when you lay the foundation and then a couple injuries come your way, minutes might get reduced, and then you're having to see people finally succeed after you've kind of laid that foundation?
At first it was pretty tough, but that's because I was young. At that time, I, saying, didn't really understand that at that point in time that it wasn't just about me. It was about what was best for the team. And as I got older, I just started filling out like maybe everything happens for a reason. And maybe those injuries happened for a reason. Maybe the situation that I was in was put there for a reason. And I took that into consideration every day. I built off of it and became a professional because of it. A lot of times, a lot of guys can't say, oh, hey, your minutes is about to get reduced, but we want you to stay here and help this team out. They wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, I did it for a few years. So I only think I played 1 full year at Indiana. So for me to be able to help those guys understand like what you put into the game is what you get out, to turn them into a predominant team in the Big 10, starting off like with them knowing that we were struggling just off of the fact that, we didn't have the talent, and you bring in talent. We still were struggling for a minute, but then we bought in as a team and went together and, did what we had to do in the Big 10. So I feel like it was tough at one point, but when you get to a point where you're older and your mind starts to develop, you start to understand that it's just not about you.
And that's the difference between being a pro and other guys fizzling out.
Right.
For sure. Well, like I said, I felt like a lot of people, especially Sideline Cancer, makes a lot of sacrifices throughout the TBT. You guys really meshed very well, and obviously that led to you guys playing in the championship. But let's take it back just a few years when you first started playing in the TBT. How did you first come to find out about it, and what enticed you about the league?
It was crazy the way I found out about it. Me, Remy, and Jermaine, he's not here with us today, but we all were in the same league. So Jermaine and Remy were playing together at Helsinki when I was in Finland. And I was playing for Lapua. And I think the last game I had against them, Jermaine came to me and was like, hey, bro, like, what you doing in the summertime? So, usually in the summertime, I would play in some leagues. I would play in the Brunson League, the Goodman League. I would play the Kenner League, all these leagues that was in DC that was predominant, just to stay in the game ready shape and everything like that. So, I was like, I'm playing in the leagues and stuff like that, but what's going on? So he was just telling us like, man, I want you to come on to this organization with me and for the TBT. And it at that time, like had just watched the TBT the year before when one of my teams in DC took their team to the Final Four, and they lost, I think, to either overseas elite or they lost to somebody in the Final Four, and I wasn't a part of that. So, and I knew all the guys there, and so I was like, you know what? I was always saying that I wanted to play in the TBT. Let me go ahead and get on this team, see what it's about. I know a couple of the guys. I know what, what I'm saying. I know I'm gonna be taken care of. Let's do it. And we went and went to New York. That was my first year.
Crazy how far like Sideline Cancer as like a team has come, man. Like y'all really boosted the talent. I mean, y'all are really meshing, like I said, and making strides and coming back this year, right? I mean, Marcus Keenan announced on Inside TBT that he's coming back. I'm assuming that he's speaking for the whole team there.
For sure.
Dope.
Yeah, we definitely coming back.
Got to.
We let one slip out of our hands with Golden Eagles, but this year we get a couple of our pieces back that we didn't have, and they're gonna be probably a couple of the key guys on the team, and we're adding on a couple of other new talents that might come along with us. It's not set in stone yet, but I feel like because of what we did in the past, I feel like because of the relationships that we build, and it's more than we play for, just more than the basketball. I mean, more than the money.
Right.
I feel like we'll get those guys. So we'll see. I'm excited to, get back into it. I'm more excited about the TBT than honestly. Honestly, at the same time, everybody got their jobs to do right now. I know everybody's excited to just have basketball back in their lives, because when this COVID thing hit, it was kind of taken away. But I'm truly excited. I know everybody's going to be gunning for us now because of what we did last year. So, I'm all about challenges and everything like that. So I'm happy for it.
But with that, I mean, like, people will be gunning for you. You probably have a target on your back. But at the same time, too, like, I'm sure people are hitting you up like, man, let me play with you guys. Like, I'm the guy you need to take us over the top. Like, I'm sure all you guys are getting those messages.
Yeah, I got a couple from a couple of guys, and we'll see who we at. You know what I mean? That's really up to like the coaching staff, and we got a voice of opinion of who we think can do that for us. But at the end of the day, we got to go with who we got, and I feel like even if we get those guys or don't get those guys, we still have enough to do what we need to do.
Well, I want to talk about your run just a little bit, because it's pretty insane. Like, I felt like people wrote you guys off in that first game against Team Hines. Y'all come back, make some noise, and then just kind of that trickle down effect of you guys continuously upsetting people. What was kind of the approach this year, maybe compared to years prior, that you guys took, or was there anything different like about your approach?
It was more so, since we had already been through it when we were in Wichita, because I can't really count New York because we was one and done the first year that we got out. But when we got from Wichita, we was more focused than anything. Knowing that we weren't going to have a couple of our key guys kind of put, just a target on our back, and we felt like we were targeted. So again, like, nobody expected us to do anything. Everybody rooted us out to be gone in that first round. And it was a tough game. Team Hines had a whole rack of talent on that team that, we hadn't faced. We hadn't faced bigs that really could shoot the three other than Wilson from Golden Eagles those years. I don't think. But, Team Hines brought in a team that had like Brandon Paul. I ain't played against him. Even though he was in the Big 10, I never got a chance to play against him. He was a tough matchup. They had my guy, Marcus Thornton, came in and gave him a spark. Eric Griffin, the energy guy, you know what I mean? Ethan Happ from Wisconsin, Big 10. You know what I'm saying? So they brought in a lot of guys that could fill it up. And, our whole focus and our whole motto was just believing in ourselves and having that I can attitude. And even when we were down in the Elam ending, I think we were down to Elam ending.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 out of the 5 games, we had to come back and win those games. And but even when we were down, we always stuck together. We always believed. And it was times on the team where I would get down or somebody else would get down on the team. We just picked each other up as brothers and played with our hearts out. And that's why we got to where we got.
Crazy. And it feels like, alongside you guys, we obviously saw the Marshall alumni guys, making their little underdog run as well. And it seems like we've seen a lot of underdog teams make some noise this year, really. I mean, do you feel like that's more of a testament to the growth and talent that has just been added to the TBT, or maybe just from playing and building that chemistry over the past few years? Or
I just think like when you get rooted off as an underdog and you got teams that got all this talent or whatever, you want to prove to everybody that, you know what I'm saying, we not just no slouches either. I mean, because like I said, you got to think about it. We was ranked 22 out of 24. And I think Heard that was ranked 23 out of 24. So you got two underdog teams that just know what they about. They know they had the talent to win those games. We knew we had talent to win those games. And I think a lot of underdog teams took like, okay, they rooted us off to be not better than this team. Well, let's just show everybody why we are. And that's I think that's what everybody's attitude on our team was for sure.
For sure.
And I can honestly say that's what I saw out of Heard that too, that they took that underdog attitude. I mean, especially when they played
the money team.
The
man.
money team. Yeah, the money team. You just
Those
had to know
cocky
like
as hell.
Yeah. You just had to know like when they was playing that game, they was playing with their hearts out because they wanted to show everybody, especially it's on TV, no basketball, no NBA yet.
True.
This was we was the only thing anybody had. So you on national television playing against the money team that got all this talent and stuff like that. Yeah, they was gonna come out there with that spark and fire. So I feel like a lot of teams even next year are gonna do that. Come out with a spark. So I feel like because of that and everybody want to stack the team up and we just want to keep that underdog attitude and win games that way. We don't really need too much to win. That's where everybody's going off of.
That's dope. Let's fast forward. You guys, pretty much steamrolled Boeheim's Army, which I think was a shock to everybody. Probably not to you guys, but everybody else outside. And you guys play Overseas Elite, and you probably arguably made the biggest play of the TBT, knocking off the 4-time chance there, hitting a big shot, contested shot there. Was that play like originally intended for you, or was that something in the moment where you had to improvise and you just felt it? You're just kind of feeling it at that point.
No, it wasn't. The play wasn't for me. That was the thing. The play was for Marcus King. And so he was supposed to come off the screen and get a shot off, a 3 off. But what ended up happening was he lost the ball in the air. And then so when he threw it, he kind of threw it behind me, so to the point where I had to stretch my left arm to even grab the ball. But I was moving to the right. And so when he called me, I had to back up and go get the ball. So my whole process was once I caught that ball, it was gonna be on me to make the play. Like, because of the fact that I just seen their big man play the pick and roll with Marcus King kind of in a drop action, and to have to contest his shot, I knew he was using a lot of energy. So when they threw the ball to me and ET set that screen on Bobby Brown, I had seen the rim and I just like literally used that, my quick release to get it off, because I knew he was going to hard hedge if I didn't.
Right.
And it was going to be a harder shot. So once I bumped Bobby Brown into that screen, I knew like I had to get it off. And he was just a tad bit late to the shot, and I knew it was good. Once I shot it, I knew it was good. I just had to watch it go in the basket. So when it went in, I just went ballistic, because I know like the hard work I put in. I know like that is that's what I've been working for a lot of years, and I want to be known as a shot maker and a shot shot maker in prime time situations. And I was glad to show everybody that I still had, some life in the tank. Having 3 surgeries in 22 months ain't easy to go to come back and play basketball from. So A lot of people rooted me off. A lot of people like doubted that I couldn't even get back and play in this game. So for me to hit that shot against them with a NBA vet, probably multiple NBA vets. We got
Yeah.
Bobby Brown was an NBA vet too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys that you know, over in probably better cities and just doing, you know what I'm saying, getting probably more money and stuff like that than most of the guys on this team. It was a great feeling just to have. And like I said, we always had that underdog attitude. So we never had a doubt in our minds that we was gonna lose that game. Like we was gonna win that game at any given cost. And we played our hearts out, and I'm just glad to hit the shot for the guy.
Yeah, recency bias is a bitch. I feel like everybody's always quick to write people off in any situation, really. I mean, but we've seen people make that comeback. You obviously made a big shot, emotional one, obviously.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Honestly, that catch was probably crazier than the shot. I mean, bro,
Man,
he just kind of
yeah,
like flung that shit over there.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Like when I caught it, I was moving right to like get out of his way because I felt like he was gonna snake it and come to my side. So when I was moving, I was like, all right, let me just get to the corner. But then he jumped and he lost it and he threw it. I had to like jump back and go grab the ball with my left. So at that time, I was looking at the clock. I was like, nah, this gotta go up. So like I said, I had to make that move quickly. I had to think on my feet real quick to see what was going on. And I was like, if I see the rim is going up, and just did what I had to do.
As far as being that shot maker. Well, you mentioned it. You played a couple of NBA vets and stuff, and a couple guys that played in the Big 3 as well. I mean, obviously the most prominent one being Joe, who was coming off a Big 3 MVP season right there. But I mean, did you guys have a big emphasis in your game plan to defend him, or was it kind of just like play your game, we'll figure out how the flow of it's going, and then, maybe we'll throw a couple guys at him and give him different looks, or what?
Hell nah, like? When you playing against Joe Johnson, the emphasis is on Joe Johnson.
Okay.
Man, that was one of the primary emphasis. I ain't gonna lie. We were like, how are we going to guard a 6'9" shooting guard that can put you in the post? He shoots the three. He's a pro. This is one of the top leading scorers in NBA history. Like right here, like we talking about. He's one of the top 3-point percentage shot makers in the league. Man, still can play in the league to this day if he wants to. So
I mean, he's got the nickname ISO Joe. I mean,
right. And you got that, and he goes up to his name. And crazy thing about it was, like I had just seen, one of his posts or whatever, and I just chopped it up with him a little bit and just told me to keep going and keep my legs healthy and stuff like that. And the respect is there. I've always respected Joe Johnson. I watched Joe Johnson since he got to the league. And he reminded me a lot of T-Mac, you know what I mean? So him and T-Mac's my favorite player of all time. So for Joe Johnson, like I see them doing the same kind of things. Maybe T-Mac's more athletic, but Joe Johnson's more, I feel like, more smoother as far as his release and his jump shot and everything like that. So to play against a guy like that, man, that was a blessing. It taught me a lot. I told him that, like, man, you taught me so much about the game that I didn't even know, just playing against you, having to guard you.
Crazy.
It was a blessing, man. It was a blessing.
Well, while we're on the subject of Joe, I got to read you this here because he was on Inside TBT recently, and the episode released today. So they were obviously asking if he was going to return to the TBT, and he said, quote, "If the Big 3 comes back, we have to defend our title. And those guys that I played with the Big 3 and Ice Cube, it was very, 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 very therapeutic for me to play in that. I can never turn my back on them," end quote. So with that being said, it sounds like he's waiting. But my question to you is there like a loyalty to playing in the TBT, like, do you feel like you have a responsibility to come in every summer, like for as long as you're playing, or is like something like the Big 3 something you'd consider, barring they come back?
Man, the thing about it is I love Sideline Cancer too. So it's kind of tough because what I'm saying, they put their loyalty in you, and you want to go out there and win it all for them. But the crazy thing about it is I felt like if I had an opportunity to play in the Big 3, that they probably would tell me like, yo, you might have to go play in the Big 3. Um
Bro, you got
uh
connections now. I mean, you probably had them before, but now you got even better ones.
Yeah, man. So it was cool to see that somebody actually said, "Should I play in the Big 3?" I never actually thought about playing in the Big 3 until I got a little older. But
Okay.
but it was great to know like a lot of people are watching me from the other side, and um to see like I'm getting the recognition from the Big 3 already is pretty tough, because you got all pros in there. It ain't
Mm-hmm.
nobody that's not a pro that's playing in the Big 3. So um that's cool, man, to get that. But again, I don't know. It's a tough situation because I've
For
been with
sure.
Sideline for years, and um they've been nothing but family to me. You know what I mean? So maybe it is kind of a responsibility thing, unless they say you don't have a choice. We're gonna tell you to go be that because of what you know what I'm saying, what you deserve and what you might want for your career type thing. So it's you know what I'm saying, it depends on both ways.
Yeah, everything's definitely situational
So,
there. But I just want to segue that into the last thing I'm going to ask you here, and that's kind of around these complementary leagues. We've seen things like the TBT and the Big 3, um, kind of excel over the past few years. And while we've seen like other complementary sports leagues, like especially in football, I feel like the ones in basketball are the ones that actually stick. Like the football ones really have trouble.
for
And
sure.
for me personally, I feel like the complementary leagues, there's so much success because there's so many talented basketball players, right? Like there's so many limited opportunities for exposure and playing time, or, if you're buying in, maybe you can't show all of what you can bring to the table. And I feel like that's why those complementary leagues are working, because now those guys who potentially could have a spot somewhere in the NBA at least get to play at some professional level and show that type of exposure. I think people love that. I mean, would
For
you
sure.
agree with that? That like basketball complementary leagues stick around because of the influx of talent that there is out there, or do you feel like maybe it's something else? In that
Nah,
regard.
nah, this is exactly what you said. These basketball leagues are sticking around longer than any other sport because one, it lets you show out in front of everybody. Um, you gotta think about it. Like I said, even this year was probably the most biggest year as far as the TBT, just because of the fact of the COVID situation.
Right.
And for them to even be able to get that into a board and uh have it successful, it kind of pushed the NBA to do the same thing and having a successful NBA season. Because I don't think if we wouldn't have done the TBT this year, right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't think the NBA season wouldn't have stuck. But because Dan Friel and them did what they had to do as far as the COVID test, keeping it in the bubble, doing all, you know what I'm saying? It kind of brought basketball back, period. And then we on national television. We was playing on ESPN every game. Every game was on ESPN, ESPN
Right.
two, something ESPN wise. And so, I mean, not only are you playing, you know what I'm saying, for your team, you playing for yourself as well, thinking about maybe an NBA team, hey, we might need this, or hey, another team overseas might be like, oh, we might want to try this guy out. We ain't never seen him before, but he's over here doing what he got to do in the TBT. So it gives
True.
you so much more access to everything, and to make your basketball career more higher than what you think. And I don't see that happening with really any other sport because you
Yeah.
gotta think about it. They gotta be willing and wanting to watch that complimentary league. You gotta be willing to give them exposure that they need to make their careers successful. And I don't think they can possibly do that.
Yeah. And not to say like the NBA regular season is boring because I know it's like a grind for those dudes to play
So,
72, 82 games. But I do feel like people take it, I feel like less serious would be the wrong word, but they're really trying to gear up for the postseason. So
yeah,
throughout the regular season, they're playing when they can or putting all their heart and energy maybe into one game and the next one. So I feel like with the TBT, the big three, I mean, those guys, like you guys are just going at it. I mean, you have something to prove, like you said, like you just plan on
yeah,
for a chance of exposure. And not only that, you're playing for the guy next to you because potentially if you're not helping yourself, you might be helping the guy next to you.
for sure. And I mean, like, it's crazy that we talking about the big three and the TBT because they two different types of styles of basketball,
Right.
and they're successful because of the style that they are. And I'm not even talking about just the 3-on-3 atmosphere. I'm talking about as far as the big three has this way with like regular season games, and then you go into playoff games, correct?
Right. Right.
And then, but now you got the TBT. You got one game. If you're not on your game with that one game, you're out. I mean, and they putting big money on the line that can help you out and your family. So
Yeah.
now you got to go out there and grind and be ready to go as of immediately to win these games and stuff like that. And um, that's why I feel like both of these leagues are great and stable. And especially with Ice Cube doing this thing over into the Big Three, he put people in the seats. I mean, when I first heard about it, I was like, I don't know if that's gonna work because you know what I'm saying. You got
Yeah.
3-on-3 basketball, but it was different and it did work because you know what I'm saying. He's putting the best of the best out there. He's helping. He's making sure everybody's good and stable. And you know what I'm saying. Hello.
Good.
Yeah, so he's making sure everybody good and stable, and that the fact of the matter that he's putting it out on the line, like you can get an NBA call up shot if you go out here and do your thing, or you can put your team on the map. You win this whole thing, or look at it from ISO Joe's perspective. Like he's still out here playing, uh, and he got a shot. I think he was in a training camp for a team
Yeah. With Detroit.
off of that. So you know what I'm saying? So you gotta think about it. Like if ISO Joe can get it done, it makes it I mean, he's an NBA vet, don't get it wrong, but like what I'm trying to say is like it makes everybody else believe in themselves as well. And
Yeah.
so it makes competition harder and um we like that. You know what I'm saying? We love when it's a competition and not just, you know what I'm saying, something that we can just play in and just get out.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. All right, I lied. I said I was going to ask you one more question, but I got to ask you something about the Elam ending. What's it like to be in that scenario? Like you were talking about how like your backs are kind of against the wall every game because it's one and done if you lose. So what's it like when, especially when you're down? Like you said, you played so many times from behind in that Elam ending. Or so what's it like to be in that like Elam ending situation? And do you like that?
I love it. I personally love it because you can't just run the clock out when you up. You got to actually beat a team, and that was one thing about us. Like like I said, we were always down to Elam ending, but it wasn't like you could just run the clock out against us, and you had to actually beat us to get it done. And um, a lot of times we went on a serious run in the Elam ending because we knew we had a lot of shooters. We had people who can defend, and we had people who really didn't get tired. Like even though you played the whole game, we really felt like we still had more stamina than a lot of teams going into that, and it helped us out in the long run. We're a running gun team. Like if you don't get back against us, we either pulling a three or getting to the basket, and or we going to the free throw line. So um I love it just off the fact that it makes you have to earn your respect for that win instead of just, oh yeah, we're gonna run the clock out 30 seconds or we're gonna run it out 24 seconds, and then now you up 15 with 2 minutes left. It's kind of not saying it's impossible, but highly most likely at the times you're gonna win that game unless you just gave it away.
Yeah.
But if you down 15 and your team got to score go to 23, and now you got a shot. Now you hit 2 threes, you're right back in the game. You know what I'm saying? So it's a great situation. I love it. I wish everybody would implement it. But I think they're probably going to do that in the long run because they see everybody else is probably use it.
Yeah,
but
I do too.
Can't wait when they do.
Same here. Hey, well, I appreciate the candid conversation. I appreciate your time. Best of luck to the rest of your season overseas, and best of luck this summer. I'll be tuned in like a lot of other people, but appreciate you once again.
Man, appreciate you for having me on the show, man.
All right, guys. So that was our episode with Mo Creek. I cannot wait to listen to it. Anthony, I'm sure you did a phenomenal job, as you always do.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So until next time, we thank everybody for listening and watching, whether you're watching us on YouTube, listening to us on Dash Radio, or on your preferred podcast platform. Thank you. Check out our Teespring for the shirts, latest gear. We're going to have stuff up there. Hopefully, as the season gets going and more news goes, we can get some more designs up there. Thank you, everybody. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. See you later.